everyone, I'm Robbie Jenkins, and this is Breaking Boundaries. It's a place where we take posing beyond the stage, and today we're talking to my friend Tommy Nguyen. So, hey, Tommy.
Yo, what's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So, tell us a little bit about your background, what got you into bodybuilding, and more so, what got you into the posing aspect.
Awesome. What got me into bodybuilding was whenever I was a kid, I always wanted to become like all the cartoons or animes that I would watch, and I'd always want to become like that superhero or like the main character where he like goes from 0 to 100 and grows and gets like super strong and shit like that. So watching all those things growing up really played a role in just wanting to grow and be better. And then I fell in love with working out, in high school around 14, 15. Um, and then I eventually got into bodybuilding after graduating college. I actually graduated with a kinesiology degree, which is exercise science, basically. And after that, I decided that I wanted to coach myself for my first competition, like just getting out of college and using all that knowledge that I learned and just applying it to myself. And at that time, I was already like training a few clients, like doing their meal plans and stuff, learning how things worked, and just getting a starting foundation on nutrition. I really didn't understand it too much until I actually hired a coach,
Yeah.
but did my first competition. Of course, didn't do as well as I wanted to, but I got the best poser award, and
Hey.
and one thing that I do have to credit that to was Pete Hartwig. So didn't even know Pete at that time and just saw him all over Instagram and saw that he was offering a encyclopedia of classic posing. So I was like, oh, okay, that's awesome. Went ahead and typed it up and bought it right away and like started studying it. And I was like, okay, this is really cool. Like this goes in depth with everything, shows the pictures, the videos. And you know what? I created my first routine just from learning all the poses from that encyclopedia. And then I would kind of like watch all my favorite bodybuilders, such as like Chris Bumstead, of course, my coach now, Terrence Ruffin, and all of their posing and like what they were doing and transitions like that. And I kind of just took pieces from each artist that I was inspired by and made it my own. So, and that's what really got me into posing. And then, of course, I saw a video one day of my coach Terrence Ruffin doing the fucking Survivor routine. And I was like, I want to be that guy. I want to be that badass, So, and it's so cool because like now, like fast forward right after that first competition, I actually hired him, and now we've been working together for almost 4 years now. So, but yeah, like every OCB show that I've done after that, I've gotten the Best Poser Award, which is 3 times. So,
Oh, that's super awesome. So right out the gate, you've basically
yeah.
been,
So like literally,
posing.
that made me fall in love with it, and then just seeing like after that experience, I was like, you know what, like I want to be better. I want to be better. So I ended up hiring Jacob Pomeroy to guide me for my next show. And that's whenever I actually won my pro card, my natural pro card at least. And he actually taught me the in-depth technicality of posing and like certain cues and where things should be placed. And it was very meticulous, which I really enjoyed. And, just coming from a kinesiology background, I soaked all that shit in, whenever he was telling me to externally rotate this and, like tuck your hips and shit like that. Like, I was like, okay, like I understand what he's saying because I know basic biomechanics, So yeah, he really helped me take off with how I went about like posing routine creations and um, the process behind that and what his mindset was about, building it and then perfecting it, of course. So yeah, that's a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like a lot of us have the same start, like a lot of similar starts, and we have a lot of like crossing over. Because I think about it now, this is the first time I think we've ever actually had any sort of like video call. I think
Yeah,
we've
for
only
sure.
talked to each other through like Instagram messages and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's funny that you mentioned Pete Hartwig's encyclopedia, because I remember when I was trying to scramble and figure out how to do this stuff in like early 22, it's like all your key players were like the same key players to help me out. Um, yeah, because it was Jacob and Jarek who did the posing challenges, and I would watch those, and I think that was super cool. I would watch like Terrence Ruffins. I used to watch Rachel Daniels stuff. I think it was Rachel. I think in her story, she shared something that you did. And I
Oh,
think it was because there was like a posing challenge that Jarek shared. And I like her and Jarek were like friends or whatever. And so then I remember seeing you when I first started, and I was like, holy cow, like I just want to be able to freestyle or make up something like that. Um, and then, yeah, like some of the stuff went down. And so I was still talking to like Jarek and Jacob, but I didn't really know where to reference. And then I think Chris Barnett, I think he mentioned Pete's posing encyclopedia. So then
that's
I
awesome.
got Pete's posing encyclopedia and
That's
started
awesome.
looking at that.
Thank
Yeah.
you,
And
Pete.
then almost, yeah, Pete. And then almost a year later, um, him and I got together over Instagram. And then I went out to Australia and got to spend time with him out there. And
So
I was there.
I'm so jealous, by the way.
Yeah. So then they were actually filming. He's got a new project coming out. I don't know like the date, and I don't think I could give the official date if I did know.
It's okay.
So, but he's got a new product coming out pretty soon, and the crew that he filmed it with was pretty solid.
Wow. Okay. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, and so it's just funny because I feel like we have so many, like we all cross over. It's like it's a very small world. I feel like, especially in the posing, like the really passionate
Yes.
posing
Yes.
community within bodybuilding is like a very
Completely.
small.
It's because
So
like you can have like the best physique like on stage, but if you don't know how to pose, like what's the point? Like bodybuilding, I feel like is more about like presentation and then like how you portray and present your physique on stage, and
mhm.
whenever I see a guy that really knows, or even a female that really knows their posing, I'm like, holy shit, like it just makes the whole experience that much better just because of how how effortless they make it look, and how powerful they look on stage as well. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's. I think the other thing for me, it's, and so Sammy and I talked about this a little bit last week, but like when I first got started, I did figure. I didn't even do women's physique. I didn't even step on stage for women's physique till this past year. And so the last 2 years, I was posing with no show date. It was just I knew I was going there, and I
Yeah.
saw you guys doing it, and I was like, "Oh, this looks cool." And I don't know if you ever had this at all, but for me, it almost started becoming a very like therapeutic outlet. So when I was younger, um, the upbringing that I had was like if things happen, bad things happen or whatever, it's you just move on. Like you don't think about it, you don't process it, you just move on. Like it's over.
Yeah, how are we
That's
gonna
it.
heal from that?
Yeah, you don't. And
Right.
so like that bit me later in adult life. So then when I had to take some downtime, my coach challenged me with finding something other than the gym, because in the gym I was just beating myself up for things that I hadn't healed from. And so when I started posing, it somehow had like connected me. I've always been a fan of like music, and you hear a song, and it happens in posing too. Like you hear a song that you really connect with, and it becomes very easy to move to. Well, for me, a lot of songs will spark certain memories, or like good or bad, either
Yeah,
one. And so a lot of my posing went from, like and I still do, like I'll still pull from different people, or I'll see transitions, whether it's from Chris or Terrence or Jacob, Pete, or like whoever I'm around, and kind of learn or soak up something from. Um, but I think the more emotive part became, because posing itself became like a therapy modality. It was a way for me to express emotions that I didn't know how to put words to. And so for me, it became not even just showing my physique, but like giving myself a voice to things that I just didn't know how to say.
that's fucking awesome. I feel the same way, and it's crazy that you say that, because like some of the best posing that I've created was just turning on, a that I was really connecting to, and I would literally just close my eyes and let my body just flow. Literally, it would just do its own thing. Whatever I was feeling, expressing, it would show through my posing. And after I get done recording it, I'm like, holy shit, did I just create that in like what, 30 seconds to a minute? Like, holy shit, that was so good. Like, and it was just from not overthinking it and thinking about the posing so much and just getting lost in it, and actually just using it, like you were saying, as a modality to express how you're feeling. And
Mm-hmm.
that that is definitely so therapeutic for me. Like anytime I'm dealing with some shit and I want to feel better, you know what? Like I literally go to the gym, go to the studio, and pop on my headphones and literally just get lost in posing. Something I
Yep.
remember I would literally be at the studio for just hours, from like 7 p.m. to like almost 12 midnight, just getting lost in the sauce, just fucking posing to music back to back. And my girlfriend would just be like, "Where the fuck you at? Like where you at? Like it's been so late." And I'm like, I'm sorry, babe. I'm like, I'm really in a groove right now, So, but yeah, I'm glad that you said that, because I do think it's very important for us to get these, um, how do you say this? These negative emotions or whatever feelings that you're feeling out, and really trying to heal from it. And it's through movement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things, or really it was the main thing that brought me, um, it kind of brought me purpose into wanting to do something like this. But every time I would go through something, or I was trying to like get past something that had happened before, I'd make a routine that had to do with it, whether I'd pull up a song from then or something that I'd listen to now. And then I noticed when I would finish something, I would look utterly exhausted, but I'd also feel so much lighter. And I just feel like it's like I'm not anything special. So it's like if I'm experiencing this, like there's plenty of other bodybuilders that like don't understand that the posing part, it's not just showing your physique really well. It's like you don't realize how much healing you can get from it. And I mean, let's be honest, most of us kind of go into bodybuilding because usually there's something under there, like underlying, that we're kind of trying to compensate for, of some sort of traumatic response. Not always, not everybody, but I've met a lot of people, me included, where that was kind of the case. It's like you want to get stronger and you want to get bigger and you want to feel like unbreakable and unstoppable, but it's usually coming from something deeper rooted where you're hurting. And it's like, well, maybe if I achieve this, maybe I'll feel better. It doesn't really work that way because you're just running. So posing became something to where I could turn around and just like run back into whatever I was running from, but do it in a way where I felt safe enough to do so.
Right. Of course. Of course.
Yeah. So then from doing that, that's kind of what sparked my passion with trying to get other people excited about it. Cause it's like, maybe if they just experience it like that once, or like they get in touch with their emotions that they didn't know how to, or they forgot to for a while, it's like maybe it will kind of turn it into something.
Yeah,
So,
of course. Of course. I like that.
yeah. So, one of the things that I like to do and what I want to keep doing is when you guys come on here is have something um, that you performed or something that you created, whether it was something you did on stage or something that you did like cinematic. And so you picked your routine for when you went pro in the OCB. So I'm going to pull
Yeah.
this up. Um, and we can play, like, I can play through it and we can talk about it a little bit afterwards. Or if there's any part that you want me to pause, like as we're playing it, if something like pops out and you want me to like pause it and rewind real quick and you want to talk about something that you just saw, just let me know. I can do
Oh,
it.
well. Okay. Sounds good.
So I'm gonna do this.
Oh yeah, by the way, um I literally before this before this posing routine, literally I was about to go out there and I was about to usually just keep my hair up because that's how I usually pose and that's how I usually do prejudging and whatnot. But I had my girlfriend at the time and Ruff actually tell me to take my hair down because it just looked crazy. It was just a different style of look. So that was the
Yeah.
reason why I had my hair down there. So
Yeah, I dig it. I mean, women do, like, a lot of times you see women with like their hair down. And so I always pose with my hair up. And then it's because like the way that I pose, it gets so dynamic that it's like I don't want to have to think about
yeah, like
getting
flipping
my
the
hair
hair
out
and
of the
shit
way.
like that. But yo, it
Yeah.
turned out pretty well, so I'm happy with that. So go ahead and play it though.
No, I love it. Plus, dude, like you guys, you and Chris both, you guys have some crazy manes. Like, you better watch out. You're gonna have some women trying to steal your hair because you guys have like the most gorgeous hair I've ever seen.
Thank you.
All right, here we go.
Tommy looked great in the comparison. The thing that stick out then is still sticking out now. Those qualities. That Tarzan? Is that Tarzan?
The commentary is fucking hilarious.
I love it.
Posing. He's definitely bringing that posing. Oh yeah.
I actually saw him in the hallway and I said, "Smile."
That's strong.
He's
That's
small.
what I said.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Nice and tight. His hamstrings are tight. His quads are sweeping. Definitely, I got him in my top 3.
Yep.
Didn't do a lot of the other categories. He went straight in for the open. So he came for business. Wow, this got a little, this reminds me of a little bit of Richie. Lopez in here. Reminds me a little bit of Richie here.
Yeah, I love the commentators that were at that show. They were really, really nice to me and good to me. So
No, I love it. I like the fact. I think the hair down was a good call. I think it was really, really cool. And I feel like your hair is at like a perfect length too, to where like you're not hiding anything. You don't have to worry about it hiding your back or anything like that either. So it's like you can let it be down and crazy. But because you had Pandora. So what were you thinking like in your song choice?
Oh, so my style of posing is based off of like a more of like a dramatic slash cinematic like type of feel. So I like to base my music off of like whenever I'm thinking about a posing song, I always think about the beginning, the middle where it's climaxing, and then there's a clear finale. So anything that kind of is really, really graceful and then powerful at the same time. And that song portrayed that perfectly. I was like, I heard that and I was like, holy shit, yeah, that's the song that I'm doing, because like whenever I would hear it, I'm like, holy shit, I could literally imagine myself on stage, literally just posing to it and killing it. And that's exactly what we did there. So was very happy with how it turned out. And thank you as well, Jacob Pomeroy. He was my posing coach at the time, so he really helped me out with that routine and really bring it to life. So really appreciative of him.
So what when you guys are creating the routine, so did he do, 'cause I actually don't know much of the backstory on this other than like what you had just told me, but was it pretty like 50-50 at that point between like you guys doing choreography and then him tweaking and fine tuning, or did he help you build a process, or
No, he
what
like
did that look like?
he literally took me from 0 to 100. So he would listen to what my vision was for the routine, and he would make a rough draft of it. And then, of course, I would practice with the rough draft because you know how everyone has their own style of posing and they do move differently, right?
Mhm.
So, like, I
Yep.
wasn't going to be like, I don't expect myself to move as smooth or do the transitions as like what Jacob was doing. So, certain pieces I would tweak and kind of make it my own style. That way, you know, it just flowed better whenever I would actually perform it rather than me trying to force something that just wasn't happening, you know.
Right.
But yeah, he really did do the base of that, and then we just fine tuned it to make it my own style. And then after that, I created every routine after that myself. So even for my clients, I do that all the time for my clients. So.
Yeah. So what actually I'm gonna ask you like a little bit about making routines for your clients. Nope, I'm gonna ask that next. Actually,
Okay,
it makes more
cool.
sense. But what so like now, say you're in that same position, but you're going into like your NPC show, like you're going back to nationals again, or do you feel like your thought process has changed much in what you do or where you look to for inspiration when you build a routine?
Um, my thought process has definitely changed a lot. Um, back then, I would just kind of, what's a better way to say it? I would literally just go through the motions. Okay, I really wouldn't actually stop and actually hit certain poses and hold them. You know, I
Uh-huh.
would literally just boom, go into my next pose, and like it just wouldn't flow together. So like now I guess, you know, I take more in consideration of like tempo and like how long you should actually hold each poses to where like it doesn't look like you're literally just doing a bunch of poses that are smashed together, you know. There's a flow
Mhm.
to it. So basically just enhancing the
Yep.
flow and the tempo thing. Um, and then as well, just hitting the poses accurately. You know, back then I really didn't know like certain cues to actually hit like a pose properly. So like now that I do, after having years of posing coaching, I've learned to slowly master it. I still haven't mastered it yet. You know, I'm still learning every day to try to improve my craft. But yeah, that would be the main thing that would be different, you know, before versus now.
Okay. So now my next question is, so then when you're not making posing routines for yourself, um, how challenging do you find that? Do you find that really difficult, or do you find it easier? Do you have to like, do you use the same process or do you use it a little bit different with each person?
So honestly, whenever I'm making routines for like other people, like my clients, it's actually a easier process just because whenever I'm creating a routine for myself, I put so much pressure on myself to like, you know, pull some like crazy ass combo out of my ass that looks crazy, you know, and I put myself on a higher pedestal, I guess. Like, you know, I have higher expectations for myself. That's what I'm trying to say. And if like I don't
Yeah.
like it, I'm just not gonna do it, you know, and it takes a lot more time because like I'm I'm failing and then I'm learning past it and stuff like that. But versus like me creating them for my clients, it's based on their skill set. And most of my clients, they're, competing for the first time, or like they're still very beginner with competing. So their posing doesn't have to be nearly as difficult or meticulous, So whenever I'm creating for them, I ask them the same thing, like, okay, let's pick a song. I tell them like, hey, let's pick a song that, whenever you're listening to the music, I want you to think about how it makes you feel and how the audience feels whenever they're actually like watching you pose to the music. You want that connection there. So, and then after that, we pretty much just go into what their favorite poses are, or the poses that look best on them. And, with a posing routine, it's only like 45 seconds to a minute typically. And you usually rotate between 10 to 15 poses, if that. So we kind of just make their best poses. And the best way that I would recommend to create posing routines is break it up into segments. Like literally just start with the first 15 seconds and then just do 15 seconds at a time, and then eventually you'll piece them together and you'll have a rough draft. And then once we have that rough draft created for them, I basically perform it myself, send them a video of it. And then that's just the rough draft, because like I said earlier, with, the posing routine with Jacob, I don't expect them to move like me, or I don't expect them to like do all the crazy transitions as smoothly as I do. So like, if they don't do it, we tweak their routine to kind of fit what they're able to do,
Right.
So it's so much easier. But I actually have a very, very challenging posing routine that I have to create for a client. And it's only because he is a wheelchair competitor. So this is going to be awesome. Just because, I've never had this experience, and I'm glad that I do, because I have to put myself in his shoes. So like, whenever I'm creating this routine, I'm literally going to have to either go get a wheelchair or just do it in a chair,
Yeah.
Think about his limitations while I'm creating everything. So that's going to be pretty cool. And I can't wait to do that.
That's interesting. No, I'm super excited to see that one. Like I don't even think like that's something that I've even thought about. Like I know that they've done like either wheelchair, or you'll have people that will come up, whether they have like their legs amputated or something like that, like some sort of disability.
Right.
And you see them pull off some crazy stuff. But I've never thought about what it would be like to have to get a routine to showcase somebody the best their ability, where like you're very limited on movement, or you're having to get very creative with like how you do it.
Yeah, because you're very limited. And then also, with most handicapped people, sometimes they have learning disabilities. So he's got a spinal injury or a head injury that prevents him from, learning as quick as we do. So his cognitive functions are limited as well. And I also have to take that in consideration whenever I'm actually going over the routine with him and actually teaching him, because it's almost like teaching a kid or a baby how to like run or walk, basically. It's very challenging. And with those type of clients, even if you like telling them cue after cue after cue after cue, they still may not get it, and it takes a lot of more time and effort with those type of clients. But honestly, the more challenging it is, that is what excites me, just because like,
Yeah.
it's a difficult project and I want to challenge myself, like I want to have like all types of clients to where I'm creating posing routines with all types of limitations, stuff like that, So yeah, that was a really cool little thing that I did want to bring up. So
That's super cool. So when when is this going to be performed? Like, is there a show date picked yet? Or
Yeah, so we got his show date picked sometime in June. So uh, we got to get that routine created sometime within the next week or two, um, so that he can actually have enough time to learn it. Just because, with his limitations with his cognitive functions, like he's going to have to take a lot more time to actually learn the routine and master it. But I don't think it'll be too difficult. I've worked with him in the past. That was actually how I met him. He wanted to get posing sessions from me, and we actually tweaked his posing, and he was over the top, and he actually ended up hiring me as a coach. So
oh, that's so cool.
so yeah, now we're actually prepping them and fully doing the posing and everything, the whole 9 yards with that. So
Yeah, you'll have to talk to him. I think it would be fun to have him on here with you and like talk to both of you guys about like how you work together to get that and then see like a video of how it came out. I think that would be
yeah,
like really, really, really cool.
that would be cool. But there is another limitation with him. His speech isn't all there as well. So like whenever he's trying to talk and you know make sentences, it's very hard to understand them sometimes. So I really have to like listen up, pay attention. And he also has a caretaker there as well that kind of helps us like understand each other, and he'll kind of make sure that everything is prepped for him. He also helps him work out. So it's a lot of going back and forth between me and his caretaker as well.
Gosh, that's so interesting.
It's very challenging, but I fucking love it,
Yeah, I mean, I don't. That's just cool. It's cool on so many levels. Like one, it's cool to be challenged as like an artist to have the different limitations and being like, okay, what can I work at within this to create something that's really awesome that this person can use. That like will do them justice, but then also rewarding too, because then as you're watching somebody go through that process that does have all these limitations and like stays excited about it. Like I feel like I'm even just thinking about that. Like I've been kind of in a funk lately and even thinking about that. I'm like, sheesh, like I've got it really dang good. And I'm over here having this little pity party and now like there's somebody out here doing this and like what am I doing?
No, you're
So
doing great, sis.
super that is just super inspiring to me.
That's awesome.
I don't
Thank
know.
you.
Yeah, I love that. It's like throwing me off my train of thought for a second because I was like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. But yeah, it kind of gives you like a gut check on perspective a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
Happy I could share.
so, yeah, no, that's super cool. I just want to make something work so bad because gosh, it's such an inspirational story too. I'm so excited to see what you guys come up with.
Yeah, I can't wait to see him
Um,
on stage. That's the number one thing for sure.
yeah,
Because
no,
his favorite or favorite classic pose is whatever is the, believe it or not, it's the 3/4 Arnold back double, and he does it so well. It's fucking awesome. I'll have to show you a picture after this call.
yeah, you're gonna have to too, because like the 3/4, those
That's
those
one
are
of the
hard.
hardest poses.
Those are insanely hard.
That's one of the hardest poses, and that was just so happened to be his favorite, and he did it so well. So it's pretty cool.
Golly, that's neat. Okay. All right. So what do you think are some of the biggest challenges that you've had yourself from beginning to now, or even some things that you still struggle with? I mean, it could be from learning posing. Uh, I know like artist block is a huge thing. I've talked to a lot of people online from different places who feel like they'll literally ask if like this artist block is a normal thing. And for me, I'm like, yeah. Like I've talked to Jarek and he's like, yeah. So like, do you ever struggle with that, or like, what are some of the big challenges that you've had in posing, and what solutions have you found to help you overcome those?
So yeah, I feel like all of us posing artists deal with the artist block. It just comes with it, you know. We have our good days where we can literally just cook shit up on a fly, but we have those bad days where like literally you're just trying to get this portion of a song done and it's just not flowing, or like you're just not satisfied with it. And like you'll know, like, because like after you get done watching your footage or whatever, you'll be like, no, that's completely off, you know, because you're your own worst critic. So if things aren't perfect, you're like, no, fuck that, let's go ahead and redo all this and go about it a different way. So what I've learned from that and trying to get past that is sometimes just stop. Like, don't even mess with that part. Maybe like let's play around with the beginning, or let's play around with the end first instead of the very beginning. You know, like it doesn't always have to be linear. You know, so sometimes if I'm stuck on the beginning part, I'll just move to the middle or the ending, and then that way I can actually make some type of progress, and then just go back and piece other parts together. Then it makes things a little easier. But yeah, like if you're like, for all the beginners that are out there, if you're having some type of artist block at all, like stop overthinking about it so much and stop putting so much energy in it and just move on. And literally, once you come back to it, you're gonna be surprised. You're gonna be like, holy shit, like why couldn't I do this earlier? You know, and it was just because we're just so overthinking on it and just thinking about it so much to where we just get carried away from actually, you know, having fun with a routine. It's more now, it's more of like a chore. And you don't look at posing like that. You know, you want to look at posing as like a creative outlook, right? So yeah, that would be my biggest advice for beginners for sure.
Yeah, there was I go through phases. Like I'm going through one right now, which like I said, I've been kind of in a funk. So usually if I get any sort of block, it's during like a funk, but as soon as I come out of it, usually like the block lifts, and then go through that phase where it's like you can be brushing your teeth, and by the time you're done brushing your teeth, if you're listening to something on Bluetooth speaker, you're like, oh, I got an idea, and like you run it. But yeah, I'm going through that now, and I remember, and I don't know if you were this way, but I remember the first couple times it happened, like it's so discouraging. You're like, did I just forget how to do this? Like, did I forget how to move? Did I forget how to pose? Or like you only can remember like 3 or 4 transitions or like 2 combos, and you're like, why are these the only things that are popping up in my head right now? Like, this is not what I want to do.
Well, that's also a good point too, because like there's only, like in bodybuilding, there's only so many poses that you could do. But the art of the posing is how you piece those poses together and how well they flow together. I think that's the beauty of it. But but definitely, there's like only so many poses that you can do in so many different variations, and there's only so many ways you can go about it. I feel like, for sure.
Yeah, I feel like it was my goal to two different people that I've worked with. It's like one helped me out a lot on like the artist side. The other one helped me out a lot on like the technical side.
Right.
But when I was getting ready for the Olympia, so I started working on that routine, I think like the end of the first month into prep, and I did like a 6-month long prep because I knew like cognitive function and stuff was going to go down. And I was like, I want to have this thing learned like in the next month. And then I just want to like, I can make whatever else. Cause like, I know I'll get bored if I just run the same thing over and over for the next 5 months.
Yeah.
But like, if I get this learned and I can practice it.
Man, I wish I would have done that. I wish I was like that, because like, I feel like I'm at this point in my career where I'm pretty confident in my posing routine abilities, to where like usually I'll literally make my routines like the last 3 weeks. And yeah,
Mm-mm.
I know. I would not recommend that for anybody else, but that was just how I flowed. Like literally, that's how I did it, and it worked for me. But I definitely wouldn't recommend that. You know, Al-
Well,
always start early, like you did.
it ended up being fun because it was like one, I got to pick, like the song that I picked was super personal.
Yeah,
Like it really reflected like the 2 years that I went through leading up to being able to be on stage again. And then it was neat because it was like I got to send. I don't know if I put these. I try to not put too much stuff in my story that has to do with Kai or like text or whatever, just because like I don't want to be that person. But I would send him like updates of like my amateur O routine.
yeah,
And then every so often he would like message me back. And then I thought like I had like a decent section that was pretty good. And I remember sending it to him and he sent it back to me and he was like, "This is too tame." He was like, "You're holding back." He's like, "You can do better than this." So he's like, "I'm gonna pose a challenge to you." And then he put in like three different criteria and he was like, "All right, try to do this." So then I tried to get that in. And then so he had me on like the artist front trying to push me in that regard. And
right.
then I was working with Kenny Wallach and I remember sending him my routine and I think I made like one change to it, I think a week and a half before, but I sent him my routine and everything was great except I missed like one mandatory pose. And so he was like pretty much kind of like, you can do whatever you want, but try to hit at least one, like all 5 mandatories in there and then like do whatever else. So then it was like it became this goal of 60 seconds of, all right, I'm going to try to hit everything. But like I opened it up a little bit. So it was like if I didn't do a side chest, because side chest for women's physiques, like really, it's kind of a rough one. Like it's kind of a
Yeah,
rough one to go into. It can be really pretty, but it's hard.
it's
So it
very
was
tough.
like I have to either do, yeah, it's either I can do like a classic style or like a men's or a women's, either one. But it's like I have to do some sort of side chest, I have to do some sort of side, like tricep. So then my goal now is to put for my routines at least a version of those mandatories in. And then yeah, I had Kai that was like, "Nope, you're holding back here. Nope, you can do this better.
That's
Nope, you
that's
got more energy."
exactly why he said you were holding back, just because you couldn't fully express your posing style, just because you were trying to fit certain things in there, you know.
Oh, I was even, that was before that even became a thing. I was
Oh,
just, yeah, I just still wasn't comfortable yet. I think I'd been posing just over a year, like a year, 3 months at that point,
mm-hmm.
year, 4 months ish. So I still wasn't like, I've gotten a little bit ballsier about either being a little bit more creative or a little bit more out of the box. Like I would start trying to make myself do different routines that wasn't really even like my personality, but just to like try to pull it off to see what would happen.
Yes,
Um,
sometimes that's just like a recipe for disaster. But my take on that was just be like, take what they're telling you, but like just put your twist on it, like put your own flavor on
yeah,
it, like and make it your own. And that way, you could still fit in all those mandatories, but still be able to express your true self whenever you're posing. That way you're not really holding back. But I'm
yeah,
glad. I'm actually glad that Kai told you that, because if you're going to show your routine to like your friends and like your peers and whatnot, of course they're going to be like, holy shit, that's fucking awesome, like you did amazing. But you really need somebody to tell you like, hey, like Kai did, like, hey, you're holding back, like that wasn't you, like you could do so much better. And sometimes
yeah,
we need to hear that shit. And that's what pushes us to be better and not get comfortable with our skill set, because we're always learning, we're always getting better. And that's the love for bodybuilding and posing. So
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's one of the most important things, especially. I'm sure quite a few people, but especially for me, it's like sometimes it's scary to push yourself out of like your comfort zone, especially when it's in anything like in an artistic. It just like hits more closer to the soul. So it's like if this isn't received well, it's like I'm actually really not being received well because it's like I'm really trying to put myself out there with this one.
right.
But yeah, I think that's probably one of my biggest challenges sometimes is like underestimating. And so then trying to like pull back, or I think sometimes that's where a lot of my blocks will come from is like I'll hit some imposter syndrome because I'm putting too much pressure and then you just clam up.
Sometimes you just gotta let that shit go, turn off your brain, and just listen to the music and let it flow. That's it. Whenever I feel like that. But yeah.
So what are last couple of questions I've got? What would you like to see from like a collaborative space? Would you like to see more of? I think personally, I think one of the ways that posing could be brought more to the forefront is if we start either bringing back a lot more like doubles or people with very different styles and learning how to like mesh them together. But what are some collaborations that you would like to see or collaborative ideas, whether it's in person or through social media or anything like that?
Well, first off, the posing challenges that, we've been doing over the past few years with Jarek, Jacob, Chris, like those posing challenges are opportunities for anybody to come in and challenge themselves and put themselves out there. That's actually how I improved a lot on my posing because like I love a challenge. If somebody tells me, hey, I got a challenge going on and it's for posing and the song literally just hits, like sign me up. I'm gonna do it. I didn't do this last one because I didn't really have enough time just with all the new clientele that I've been signing up at the beginning of the year. But this next one, I'm definitely jumping in. So, Jarek, if you're listening to this, let's do round two. And then also, I think what would really bring posing to the forefront would be if posing was actually judged on at a competition. Like I feel like presentation is a lot and it should be judged, especially for like classic physique competitors or physique competitors, like fitness competitors. Their routines are judged. Why aren't ours judged? So I feel like once posing is actually judged and into the criteria and actually rewarded for, like the Arnold's doing, like I love how they give out the best posing award like every show. And that's phenomenal because you see the best posing at the Arnold, period. Now, Olympia, yeah, but that's just because those are the Olympians. But I feel like the posing at the Arnold is just so much better just because it's actually being rewarded for, so I think that would really, really put posing at the forefront to where it's actually, looked up.
Yeah, I think the guest posing, I think that's one. I think if like more shows would promote guest posing from people that are really, really passionate about it. So it's like people get more exposure of like, this is what you can do. And this is like the kind of feelings you can provoke in the people watching. I think like, yeah, like I think that would be one is that, like, if we bring guest posing back is like a bigger thing in more shows. I agree with the best posing award. Like, I feel like that should be something that's like across the board, pretty much everywhere that like shows give. I get scared. I remember seeing somebody talk about having like the posing routines graded, The only reason I get scared is like if you start putting criteria into the posing routines, then I'm afraid you're going to lose some personality in it, because then people are going to go into like the criteria. So I do feel like they should do more, even like at the Olympia, like best poser awards and like other IFBB shows. For sure. I get nervous about like actually grading the posing routines. And it's only because I'm afraid of like it'll limit people or make them afraid to branch
really
out a little bit.
Yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a definitely something to take in consideration for sure.
Yeah.
But generally, you can literally just watch a competitor do their posing and you'd be like, holy shit, like, yeah, that guy was the best poser. Like you can easily tell, you know, whenever somebody actually knows what they're doing versus somebody that's, you know, going just through the motions. And even on the elite level at the Olympia or the Arnold and all these pro shows, I still see all these pros kind of not really knowing how to pose properly, even at that elite level. And I just feel like it's just because it's not being judged on enough.
Yeah.
But it is getting better, but I still think it needs work for sure.
Yeah, I do. I think it is coming back though. Like I think it's coming back.
Definitely. Because like classic physique is now, like, in my opinion, it's getting more popular than open bodybuilding. Now, I'm sorry for all you open fans. You might feel indifferent, but I feel like ever since classic was born, posing was, you know, like really, really emphasized again. And it's just because we were bringing it back old school posing, you know, and just kind of throwing a modern twist on it.
Yeah, I agree. And then, so my last question for you, what do you think are some of the things that we could do to help build more community in just the posing like realm of bodybuilding? What are some things that you think would be either cool to see or things that you think we could do?
The first thing that comes to my head is probably just events, you know, so like certain events like posing seminars. I think that's a great situation where you can actually bring in people that are genuinely interested in learning about bodybuilding posing. And, you know, if you can teach somebody how to pose, like, is just so fulfilling for them and for us too as well. Just because, like, you know, you show them a side by side of like their old way of posing or doing like a front double, and then you show them the tweaked version and they're like, holy shit, like I didn't know I could look like that. And it's just because they don't know how to pose. And just being able to share the education through seminars like that, I think that would be very, very beneficial in spreading posing throughout the community for sure. And then like the posing challenges, just another outlet for other people to jump in and, you know, show themselves and what they're capable of. But yeah, those are a few things that would come to my head first.
Yep, I agree with both of those too. When I was in Australia before I left, we've talked about it a little bit. I don't know if anything will come from it or what will come from it. And I'll kind of have to wait until like his product comes out and he gets a little bit more bandwidth. But Pete and I had talked about doing some seminars, but potentially doing some that were more artistry focused.
Right, exactly. You don't ever see that.
Yeah, so we thought it'd be cool, like you have ones or like you have like your section of time where you can kind of look at basics. But I told him that something that I thought would be really cool is either like have a day where we go through, you could do one and two things. Like you could have one that's like a solo routine creation. And it's like you can show like here I can show like something that we did to a song and kind of break down like what we did.
Right.
And then give people kind of a workshop and help them like walk them through kind of finding like their style or flow or whatever. But it's like everybody can kind of cheer each other on too. Like when they perform like whatever they come up with. And it's kind of like this no judgment, just have fun with it, see what happens, like see what you can learn. But another one that I thought was cool was, so him and I did a routine together when we were out there. And then the film crew he was working with before I left, they filmed it for us. And so him and I were both going through like a creative block, and the trip was kind of like tense. I think we were both like dieted down and just tired. And then you then add in a trip to Australia. And then we decided it was a great idea because we had a friend from Austria who we both talked to quite a bit, who was competing in Sydney. And so he lives up in the Gold Coast. So then 2 days after we get to Australia from a week in Orlando, we drive 10 hours down to Sydney to spend 3 days in Sydney and to drive 10 hours back. So like,
and
we had
pizza.
never actually, so
I saw the story. So
so we never.
Sorry, Pete.
I felt so bad, but I couldn't help myself at the same time, because it was like when we were in the States, every time we got into the car, I would look over within 2 minutes, and he was.
That's okay. That's how my buddy Paul Canoe is. Every time you like look over at him, he's like literally just passed out. So I guess it's just a thing. Ain't nothing wrong.
So like, no, it's not. But
He's getting his little
like every. But no, so like the whole trip, like the whole point going out there was him and I were going to try to create like the whole time.
Yeah.
And do a bunch of stuff. And it was like we almost kind of kept avoiding it. And then the very last weekend, he was working on something, like he had to do a more advanced routine. And then we were going to do like our doubles one. And I was videoing him as he was like working through his singles routine. And he got kind of mad at me because he didn't realize I was recording him. And then like the rest of us, like we're over analyzing everything. And so finally, like he sat down and we talked about it, and he was telling me how he was blocked. And I was like, yeah, I'm kind of feeling the same thing. But then when we put our heads together, like he started showing me like what he had for his individual routine. And so then I would throw in a couple ideas that like weren't necessarily his style, but didn't change what he was doing, but either added more emphasis or like he would hit something harder than he normally would. Left there, we'd put 2 heads together and came up with like a singles routine. And we both walked out and we had felt so much better. Well, then we went back in the next day, to do our doubles routine. And we came up with the choreography together, picked the song on the way to driving to the gym. And we came up with a 2-minute doubles routine that had me doing my little contemporary combo. He's doing a backflip at one point, and like it still captured so many awesome, like smooth classic poses. And we knocked the choreography out in like an hour and a half.
See, that's
and it was because once we started working together under that, it was like we both kind of chilled out. And then if one person got stuck, like usually around the time he would get stuck, I would see something. And then we just did that back and forth. So then we started talking about maybe doing a seminar where it's like doubles, but you have people come, they can't just like pick their partner. It's like you get to draw names.
See, that would be like a fun little game or like drill or something, or
Yeah.
That would be very cool.
And it would be like, and so we were talking about doing something like that. And then maybe if we could find people willing to team up with us, he had talked about either doing him coming to the States and then us finding a place to do it here. And it's like him and I teaming up with some business here. So now you've got 2 players in like the posing community that are already teaming up together. And then like you put it on together. So you're kind of setting the precedence, because it's not just like one business doing it. It's 2 businesses coming together for like the same goal to have some fun with it.
Right.
And then me flying back out to Australia and trying it out there. And then if it goes well. Like I've talked to Killian, talked to Sammy. So like we put some feelers out for like a couple other places just like around the world where people are like, yeah, like this would actually be kind of cool. So that's something we've talked about doing too. That's kind of similar.
Oh yeah, I would love to see more of that too, because it's just different. Nobody's doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I'm ready to do stuff like that. I just got to find some other people that I can team up with because I feel like it's a big heavy lift to do by yourself.
For sure, for sure.
So, but anyway, thanks for giving an hour of your time to come on here and talk posing stuff.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Robbie. I mean, it was really fun just kind of chatting about what we love, and hopefully this helps anybody out there. So this is what we do it for.
Yeah. But this ends another episode of Breaking Boundaries. I'm Robbie, and where can they find you? Your
Instagram.
YouTube.
Yeah, they can find me on Instagram, or eventually I'm going to get a YouTube up. But yeah, I just got a new camera around this last prep, and I still really haven't learned how to use it yet. So might be creating some new content for YouTube, just regarding bodybuilding, posing, and food, since I like food. I'm a fat ass. So no, like literally during prep, I would just watch bodybuilding and like food challenges. It's so bad.
I would put Tasty app up and look up the recipes that I couldn't make while I was on prep, and I would start bookmarking all of them. And now you can go through my feed and you can see where I was at the last 2 weeks of prep, because it's like everything's kind of healthy again. And then you just see this stint where it's like all of these like desserts or like super fatty, cheesy, deep fried things.
Yeah, that'll be another topic to talk about one day. Because I feel like that would be a great conversation as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thanks for coming.